that's a thing that just like maybe people say, trying to like have interesting conversation, but like just in my head, it's like it's always been these dudes that were in the fraternity. And so it makes me wonder if it's a thing that's in their like culture that they ask to see how smart you are and whatever, and what kind of answer you come up with, and someone took it too far.
So you said you worked with 5 or 6 Sigma Chi kids, and they asked you if you can kill somebody, they can get away with it?
Yeah.
Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Oh wow! What kind of dudes would ask you that? That's crazy as shit, man. That's an outrageous statement, man. I'd write their names down.
Yeah, man. I like horror movies and all that kind of stuff, and I'll watch those kind of things. But like when someone like in person says some stuff like that, it's kind of like jarring. And I just wonder if maybe this is nothing more than some kid in a fraternity trying to prove himself. And that was it.
Yeah, man.
And I've worked
said that to you?
With probably at least 10 Sigma Chi members, and the one thing that every single one of them I feel like has asked me is, if you were gonna kill somebody, how would you get away with it?
Took items that looked similar to this: a security camera and a solar panel. In the early morning hours of September 22nd, a University of Idaho student walking home down the alley near Ashbury Street stopped, looked right at the security camera, and then took it right off the wall. According to the police report, he used this Celtics trash can to climb up. You can hear the metal can being flipped as he stands on it. The person took items that looked similar to this: a security camera and a solar panel. In the early morning hours,
I'm going to give a less probably common take on Bryan Kholberger. The newest sources have released that he has been wearing gloves since the murders as means to avoid leaving further DNA evidence. But to be completely honest, I want to just go deeper into the psychological analysis of that. So this is a man that avoids eating any food that has been potentially contaminated with meat or has been cooked with the same cookware as meat. So he is a vegan, and it was suggested by the forensic psychologist on the news that's possibly on the case that it is quite possible that he may be afraid of cannibalism, and that if he eats off these plates or eats off something contaminated with meat, he might become a cannibalist. He might lean towards cannibalism. So now I'm thinking that he's wearing his gloves after the murders have occurred, which is bringing attention to him and his suspicious activity, in my opinion. And it doesn't really make him less, leaving DNA evidence after the crime doesn't really do anything. So I have this weird feeling that it's possible that he's experiencing intrusive thoughts of the blood on his hands after the murder. He's murdered, and now, obviously I could, if this was a movie, he would be, and it's not a movie, but if it was a movie, he would be having intrusive thoughts. He would have blood on his hands. He would be visualizing or seeing flashbacks or kind of like a PTSD intrusive thought of blood on his hands because he murdered someone. He literally has blood on his hands. So he may be putting those gloves on so that he doesn't get this imaginary blood on the surfaces he touches and track that around with him. What do you think? Idealizes the BTK killer. I wonder as well if it's possible that he, as the BTK killer, was actually caught from sending letters divulging personal information or I guess taunting police officers more so than giving them personal information. He was more so giving details of the murder, of the crime, stuff that just gave him away, and eventually he ended up getting caught as a result of his social media activity, or not social media activity, but his letters to the police, giving him away. So I'm wondering if the Bryan, that BCK killer over here, Bryan Kholberger, may have, first of all, he was reported to be learning under him. They may have even been pen pals. According to the daughter, he was learning under him. So did he idealize the BTK killer, and is it possible that maybe he took some notes from him? And, if I were to pick somebody to take notes off of, it would not be someone who's been caught, would not be somebody who, the BTK killer who gave himself away. We know how BTK killer got caught, through those little hints he gave the police. So then, if Bryan didn't give those little hints that he posted on social media, would he have been caught? They had Hyundai as a lead, but that's needle in the haystack. That's one little thing, and I really doubt that that's the full way that they caught him. I have a feeling his posts on social media led the police to exactly where he is. There's a large surplus of individuals that leave their doors unlocked, or did at least before these murders occurred. So now think about a small town of about 25,000, and they're leaving their doors unlocked because they trust each other. And yet there's cameras being stolen, and there's a dog being sliced up into fillets 3 weeks prior, and a rabbit being demolished and having its head and brain showing 3 weeks prior, probably about 4 weeks prior, about a month before the murders took place. There's animals 3 miles away that are getting decapitated by a human, and they don't know who did it. Is it possible there's another human doing something as atrocious as that in the area of the murders, and it's not related? I would like to think that they're related. Then we have a murder of humans off the streets, and we also have this person that's decapitating or skinning and filleting dogs. What kind of person could fillet a dog? And the person said that the animal was filleted in a way, it was as if the human that did it was going to eat the dog. They did it in a fillet, like a fish fillet, like they were going to eat him. And so I think that when we have a vegan suspect who is afraid to use utensils or pots and pans that have touched meat, possibly relating to his fear of becoming a cannibal, we now have him filleting, maybe if this was him, filleting a dog, not eating it, and leaving it, as if he was going to eat it, but then maybe he has some sort of OCD rule against cannibalism to protect against the fact that he's a psychopath, and he not only murders, but after a lot of thinking about it and a lot of trying to convince himself not to do it, or just planning and maybe using some resistance, he eventually gave in to his impulses and desires to kill and murder. Now doing this, he probably wouldn't be able to go back to a lifestyle of not murdering. So now if he were to start eating meat, would he ever be able to go back from that? Would he become a murderer cannibal? Those exist. So I have included in this video screenshots of pretty much anything that I found to be relevant or significant in this case so far. Some of the things that I added were he made 2 social media posts, or 2 social media accounts, one of which was Fraternity on 4chan, and one of which was a account called Inside Looking that he used on Reddit. The 4chan account seemed to be more of an account it existed since April of 2015, where he's giving people advice on girls. And then there's also an account on Reddit that was associated with Bryan Kholberger himself. And that account, he had posts about girls and about OnlyFans models, and his willingness to spend money on them, and his dislike for being lied to, and how they misrepresent themselves on there, and how he dropped money on them or was just discussing dropping money on them in general. So there's that, and then there's his 4chan account that he posted a map. This is very, very early. He posted a map of significant criminal activity, like a murder map, that kind of had some notes on it, had some spots on it that were significant according to him. And I believe that he created this map. It could have been accurate information, but I also think that he was looking to throw off the police with this map. It may have been a trophy, it may have been a brag, but it may have also been with the intentions to frame somebody from the, someone named David Loach, somebody from the frat, or get the police and the general crime sleuth community off his tracks or on the incorrect path. He commented that he was hiding, December 12th, he said on that page that he was hiding out in shithole PA, Pennsylvania, and then the police said, as of, I believe today or yesterday, that they've only known about him, the Bryan Kholberger, they've only had him at least as a main suspect for a few days. So the date right now is in January 2nd, and we have around, they've known for a few days, so they probably knew since Christmas Eve or Christmas-ish. We have a note on that is that on the account, inside looking, he wrote, if this isn't solved by, or if they don't have a suspect by Christmas, I bet you this case goes cold. That was him being overconfident, him thinking he got away with it, thinking he was, they were on his tail or on his track. So they've known about this only for a few days, and on December 12th, he posted that he was in shithole PA hiding on this 4chan frat anon account. So nobody knew he was in Pennsylvania. So it's crazy that he posted that. There was also a photo posted outside the bedroom window of Kaylee, posted at 3:10 a.m. And now he said on his other account, someone showed that to him on Reddit, on his other account, Inside Looking, which I haven't confirmed to be him, but I do believe it to be him as it was deleted today. And it's very sketchy timing, very sketchy. A lot of it is sketchy. Very knowledgeable about the crime, commenting on mostly public information, but just details on public information that's not public. Like, for example, commenting on shoe prints, and exactly what type of shoes were being worn, or that there's an S potentially on the bottom of the shoe print. Now, he's basing this off a shoe print photo that's very general and very generic, and is not something that can be seen on the internet, and that conclusion can be made about the S on the bottom, because it was basically just a shoe circle and a tag on a pile of leaves. And this is not something that I would be able to come to the conclusion that the person must have been wearing shoes with an S on the bottom. It's just, it was public information. The photos were public information. The fact that shoe print was being looked at, or that they found one, that was public information. But the S was a strange conclusion that he pulled from that may have been a projection or a slip of information that he knew that he forgot that wasn't public information, or he forgot we didn't know. I think that he made this Inside Looking account for the purposes of being involved in the investigation, being involved in the crime sleuth community, guessing and whatnot, with the underground society of crime investigations, so that he could kind of know where everybody's at, and if his scent is being found, and if he's sitting there obsessing about, okay, did they find me? Think about this. You have a criminal. He just murdered 4 people. He's going to be sitting there refreshing Google and checking the news, seeing if there's been reports about they have a suspect, or seeing if, they're on his tail, or what evidence they have so far, because he's worried about getting caught. So he can sit there and dabble with all the people on Reddit and all the people that are in the crime community, making even possible Facebook pages, and talking and Moscow murder Facebook groups for finding the murderer. He's in all of them, probably, because he wants to see if people are onto him and how much time he has. He's got about very, very overconfident about 23 days ago. So probably around the time that he decided to go to Pennsylvania, he thought he was good. Not only am I good, but I'm about to get a ride with my father, who's going to take the car that's not in my name across the country, and I'll hide out in PA, and nobody will find me in PA. I'm all the way across the country. I go from one place in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, to another place in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. They're not going to find me. Pennsylvania is where people, I'm from New York. People in New York go to PA when they want to hide out. They go to PA when, they want to go get away from drugs or for a while, or, there's nothing there. That's what I was told. It's not a place where he's going to be having a lot of eyes on him. And so he hides that car in the garage. It's in his mom's name. He goes home without the Hyundai, and now he's gotten rid of it. He's good. He goes back to school. Maybe he gets a new car. He's good. The car's not even registered in his name, in his eyes. They don't have DNA evidence. They don't even have a suspect. They don't even have a person of interest. According to what he posts on his Reddit account, they don't have a person of interest. So he's clear. 50% of all murders go unsolved, according to what he posted on Reddit. He thought he got away with this.
Right up on that van, man. You right up on the back end of that van. Pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay. Cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're standing early.
What's WSU?
Yeah, I go to the university, basically. It was an incident that was occurring up there. It was an shooting incident. That is SWAT team area.
Okay, I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming to State University?
Yeah.
And you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Mountains. Yeah. We're slightly planted going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Mountains. Yeah. We're slightly planted going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Mountains. Yeah. We're slightly planted because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
We're driving. Well, almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Or
Yeah, there was a mass shooting and everything.
Where? Interesting. Mm-hmm. So y'all work at the university there? Or?
I actually do work there.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident. Just yesterday, or?
This happened about an hour and a half ago. We're still wrapping it up for investigating. I was not sure there's two shootings, but they did shoot somebody.
I see.
And then you don't know about that actually.
Well,
there was a shooting out of the window or something.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Well, do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay? All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Now that we have all the information on the case, at least a lot of it, and significant detail of the accounts that night of the murder of those girls, Zerna Chernobyl, Kaylee Goncalves, and Madison Logan, and Ethan Chapin, who was dating Xana and was a triplet, it is now known that the scream that was released on the body cam on the news was manufactured and was not actually authentic. There was a scream heard and reported by at least a couple individuals. Of course, we don't know the authenticity of that at this time. The dog was in fact kept in Kaylee's bedroom. It appears the surviving roommate Dylan, may in fact have seen something. We haven't heard any information about the other surviving roommate. At this time, no motive has been identified. News reports that the killer was wearing gloves in grocery stores and around the neighborhood was actually incorrect, or at least debunked, and is said to be not true. I had initially thought that the Hyundai spotting was a needle in a haystack situation and that the police were not going to be able to find anything, or at least find the car, or if they did, it just didn't seem like evidence that was optimal, or that had really showed a lot of promise. But it turns out that needle in the haystack was exactly what allowed them to solve this. Statistically speaking, leaving the murder weapon at the scene of the crime is the safest bet, as bringing it with you is actually more risky. But in this particular situation, and I feel personally with knives, this may be a little bit different, as knives may be easier to destroy, and the DNA evidence that may have been left on the knife,
Initially, I had
that
thought
is
these
said to be
murders
left
to
on the
happen
knife
around
is something
250,
that also,
240, maybe 310,
gives a
320,
really strong
around there.
case against the
As
current
more evidence came
suspect,
out,
Bryan
it seemed to
Kholberger.
be later and later, or earlier, however you want to think of it.
In the morning, or later at night. It actually took place most likely after 4 a.m., but somewhere in the late 3 to 4-ish time frame is when it likely occurred. At this time, we are unsure or unclear, and nothing has been brought to our attention on if this suspect has been involved in any other crimes, or if this is his first account, his first murder, his first crime in general. So hopefully, as the trial unravels, we hear more on if in fact this was his first murder, his first kill, if he does have a criminal background outside of the heroin use that has been reported thus far from family, friends, or friends that reported his possible implications or his involvement in heroin use. A couple things I noticed while watching the body cam video is that while he was stopped, first of all, he was stopped twice on his way to Pennsylvania. That is indicative of somebody who has trouble learning from his mistakes, as he was stopped twice in 10 minutes. So that's, you're stopped once, you see the cop in your rearview mirror, you continue to make the same mistake 10 minutes later. That cop may have still been following him, and he continued to do what the cop had initially pulled him over for. I'm not sure if it was a different cop, most likely it was, but the first one was for being too close to the car in front of him, so basically tailgating / road rage, and the second was for speeding, so basically if the car doesn't get out of his way, he's one of those people that cause other people to get in accidents. He's one of those people that is really close to your tail and just sits there until you move, but doesn't go around you, or does that until you move so that they can speed. Either way, it's I have a theory that you can tell a lot about a person based on the way that they drive, and if they're bullying people on the road, if they're significant brain trying to get you to move over, that's bullying. That shows a lot about them, and if they're impatient, and if they're have road rage, and a lot of those things come out in driving. If you're respectful, if you're understanding of other people's feelings and emotions, sound like he answered Pennsylvania. Have answered something else. In my opinion, I listened to it multiple times, and you don't think that you're the only car on the road. Question, and those are things that eyes carry over to your actual personality. My dad just told if I drive on the road and I think I'm the only car on the road, I'm not paying attention to other people. Now there's a lack of awareness of other people. And now bully on the road, I might be a bully in person. I know I can just see it. I mean, I might be wrong. This is my own interpretation of it, and it could be a projection of what I think onto him. It doesn't necessarily make it true. In addition, I noticed that his eyes were moving in strange directions, almost like they weren't connected. Like one eye looked at his dad while the other eye did something else. Looked at the police officer, looked straight ahead, looked where normal gaze. So it kind of looked like his eyes were moving around rapidly, or just they were not in sync. I do know that a large percentage of those a large percentage of individuals that murder or that are in jail or in prison for murder have brain damage or brain injuries, and I wonder if his eyes signify some sort of brain damage or brain disease. I do know he did heroin in the past. Did he damage his brain, and that is what caused him to murder? Maybe he's not a born psychopath. Maybe he's someone who damaged his brain from drug use. But again, individuals that do drugs likely have an underlying mental illness or psychological reasoning, psychological
motivation behind using drugs to begin with. So it's unlikely that somebody who was born without that trait or without similar traits or without any type of mental instability would have tried it to begin with. As for the 4chan account that reported that he was hiding out in Pennsylvania, that post was made December 12th. It appears that his road trip started most likely on the 15th or 16th of December. So about 3 days before that, he was saying that he was hiding out in PA. I'm not sure if it was present tense or future tense, as in I'm going to be hiding out, or he's saying I'm currently in PA. But it's within 3 days, so I'm sure he knew at that point he was going to be in PA. So I still wonder whether or not that post was accurate, if that was him. It's possible that there were, at that time, since it seems like very late November, that they caught on to the possibility that Bryan was a suspect, that maybe somebody was on to it in the police force, maybe word got out somehow, that there was a suspect, and that suspect may be in PA, but I have a feeling that it was not a leak, as it didn't seem like he was the main suspect. He was just a possibility at that time. They didn't seem to close in on him until a little bit after that. So, and definitely that road trip did not help. So now I wonder if that 4chan account was in fact him. The other account, Inside Looking, it is questionable whether or not that account was him or is him. That account had some valid points. Either that account is somebody who's very good at this type of stuff and should be hired by, the police force, or this is someone who might have had insiders information, or it could have been him. I don't know that it's not at this point. I do know that his point about the potential of Kaylee's dog being left in Kaylee's room was on point. The suggestion about the shoe print being an S shape was not accurate. That doesn't necessarily mean it was not him. It could just be that he was trying to get us off his trail, but also it could mean it's not him. So that part of it, I'm unsure. A lot of his other points, like the skid marks being some sort of S maneuver or some sort of hopping the curb, he suggested that is a valid point and that might actually be accurate. Some of the things he said were very insightful. So this might just be a crime sleuth who's very good at this, or this may be him. I do know somebody said, "Are you in law enforcement?" And he said no.